Hey guys, it's Lane and Katie from Circle G.
Today we're going to talk about 8 things we look for when trying to decide what stallion to breed to. Okay, so the first thing we do is we figure out what mare we're going to breed to.
We look at our mares, evaluate them, and decide what characteristics we want to change.
And you also got to decide what your goal is for the horse, right? So are you breeding it because this mare is your lifelong partner and it's your heart horse and you want to carry on the lineage? Or is it a horse that you might be trying to take to a big time show, right? So maybe it's going to be a big time prospect. Or are you looking to maybe foal it out? Are you looking to have the foal and then sell it later and make some money? So that's some things you got to ask yourself before you even get started. We figure out what exactly the goal is with that particular mare. So that's something you need to ask yourself. Am I looking for something to show, to sell, or to keep forever? So there's a lot of different things we look at, and we're going to start listing them off in no particular order. First thing I want to talk about is conformation, both of the stallion and of the mare. So that's something we look at as far as height, how balanced is the horse, and then also comparing that with our mare. So if our mare is lacking in a certain area, how does that match up with the stallion? I wouldn't want to breed a short-necked mare with a short-necked stallion, right? Because there's a chance you could get a very short-necked or unbalanced baby, right? But if you have a mare that's maybe a little short-necked, find the stallion maybe got a little bit longer neck. Same thing with size of the hip or the size of the withers or whatever it may be. Try to find something that complements the other horse. So we want to make sure the stallion we breed to, we like a lot of things about it. We like how it's made, and we like how wide it is or narrow it is, how balanced it is, how it carries its head. All things we want to look at when we're trying to pick one conformationally. Something big to consider when it comes to conformation is the height. A lot of big time stallions, especially in the reining industry, are pretty short. I mean, they're quarter horses and they're anywhere from 14 hands to 14.3. Some of the best stallions out there, 14.2. So height's not a huge deal, but something to think about. If you have a mare that's barely 14 hands, you may not want to breed to a stallion that's 14.1, 14.2. You may want to look at a stallion that's bigger. Or on the flip side, if you have a mare that's really tall, 15 plus hands, maybe you want to try to bring it down a little bit, maybe get a little bit more athletic horse potentially. You look at maybe breeding to a little bit shorter stallion. There's some things to think about.
Second thing is mentality of the stallion and your mare.
What we like to look for is the personality, which is hard to tell. A lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about, you really won't know just from looking online. So it's really good to try to call people that either had experience with the stallion, call the stallion station or the stallion owners and talk to them directly. Usually they're pretty good about getting that information out there, right? Because they want to advertise their stallion. They're usually more than willing to answer questions. We like to look at what the personality is like. If you ever get a chance to go to really big shows and they happen to have the stallions there advertising them, go over there and get your hands on them, get in the stall with them if they'll let you, and get a look and see kind of how they are. We were fortunate this past year at the NRHA Futurity in Oklahoma City. There was a couple there, and we went and looked at a few of them, and I was able to actually go in the stall, kind of pet them, see how they're put together, watch them walk. I want to see a stallion that's a little more laid back, personally. I like them kind of tucked away back in the stall, kind of mind their own business, not pinning their ears back, not real studdy, right? So I'm not talking to mares all the time and pacing in the stall, things like that.
Good, like ground manners.
Yeah, you want them good on the ground. And a lot of that's training, but there are some horses that, they're just naturally kind of busier minded, not quirky, and cause some issues. None of those are technically deal breakers, but just all part of the overall picture. A good thing to do is match up your mare with the stallion's temperament. So if you have a really, really hot mare who wants to run, maybe trying to find a stallion that's a little more laid back. Same thing goes the other way. If you have a mare that's really laid back and you want a little more speed or a little more go, find just a stallion that's a little bit hotter. Sometimes you can get right there in the middle. Something else to think about are just bad habits that a lot of times are kind of carried on, like cribbers and weavers, if the horse is deaf, things like that. You'd be surprised how much of that stuff gets passed down from generation to generation. The third thing is the show record and the produce record. So the show record is how much money the horse has earned in the show pen himself. And then the produce record is how much money his offspring has earned in the course of their time. This is probably the biggest one. This is the most advertised. If you have a stallion that's won 500,000 or 600,000 in the show pen, but his babies have made 2 or 3 million, that's what people go off as produce earnings for the most part. If you have a junior sire, they're not really established yet. They don't have a bunch of babies on the ground, so it's a little bit of a 50-50 shot because you don't exactly know what you're getting.
You're not sure how they will produce.
Yeah.
Or how they'll perform, like his offsprings will perform.
Yeah, it's kind of like flipping a coin. That's something different. Junior and senior sire is something all in and of itself. As far as the show record, how much money has he won? Has it been in big events or a bunch of smaller events? Has he had multiple trainers or just one trainer? How easy was he to start? That's something to think about. Sometimes they get started. Sometimes they're really tough. Sometimes they're really easy. Talk to as many people as you can and get as much information because it'll help you, kind of gauge what you might get.
I feel like trainers are pretty open about it too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, even if you don't really know the trainer real well, you can call them up and say, "Hey, I know you've had a handful of these breedings. How have they been for you? Have you had any common problems, or have you had any tougher spots than normal? Things like that." And most of the time, they'll be more than happy to share that information with you.
Just because the stallion does good doesn't mean his offsprings will do good.
Oh yeah, 100%.
There is more risk than you'd think. Like, oh, he did
Yep.
really good, I'm going to breed him. Unless their offsprings have produced stuff, there's no guarantee.
Yep. Yeah, the difference between an earner, right, a money earner, or a money producer is a big deal when it comes to breeding. Does the babies make money, or did that horse make money? And there are plenty of stallions and mares that won a lot of money. Their babies did not end up doing very well. So just a risk you take, but if you got one that's proven, it definitely is a little bit safer bet. All right, the next thing, number 4, is the offspring, which we kind of just touched on. But basically, what have his babies been like overall? Call the trainers and go to shows, watch, see how they are to warm up, see how they are in the stall. Look at show results. If you wanted to find some of the big shows and look at the show results, and they'll have listed the sire and dam of each horse most of the time. So you can kind of get a good idea. If you have one horse that's constantly placed in the top 10, or a lot of horses that are in the money out of 1 or 2 stallions, it might be worth looking into if you're looking for one to breed to. Kind of going back, we talked about earlier with the bad habits, sometimes that does get passed down. Find out any health issues maybe that have come up. If you've had ones that the joints might have not held up as long, or have had some teeth issues, or maybe some neurological issues, or any kind of stuff like that, can get passed down. Obviously things happen, and sometimes bad luck just comes your way, but it's good to get as much information, at least call and ask. Hey, you had any trouble with this, or had any trouble with that? Just to find out what you can.
The 5th one would be stud fees. Obviously, you pay stud fee when you breed to a stallion. There's a bunch of different ways. The most common would be like AI or live cover.
AI is artificial insemination, so that's pretty typical. It allows the stallions to ship off their semen
for the quarter horses. It's typical.
For at least for the quarter horses. Yeah, and I know like for the thoroughbreds, they don't do that. The thoroughbred, the running horses,
it's all live.
It's all live cover, which is good. It kind of keeps the market from getting saturated, but does kind of limit you what you can do. So with AI, you can kind of ship semen all over the world and get your horse bred, which is pretty cool. They also have frozen and cooled semen. Really the difference is one's actually froze or one's chilled. Frozen semen you see a lot with older stallions who don't produce as much, or stallions that have passed away.
Or like overseas.
Yep.
They'd freeze.
All things to think about. You're still going to get your horse bred most likely, but with frozen semen, there is a little bit less of a chance.
Yeah.
Just statistically of getting your mare in full.
Because you have to thaw it out. And everything.
Yeah. Might have a little bit harder time. Sometimes just timing doesn't work out and you got to rebreed them. Just part of it. When it comes to stud fee, obviously the main question for everyone wants to know is the price. It can kind of be inflated, and there are some things you got to factor in that more than just the actual number. Now, there's going to be a lot of variance in stud fee, right? From at least in the reining horse industry, which is what we predominantly are in. There's stud fees for $1,000 up to $7,500. It really just depends what you're looking for, what kind of tier, what level you're looking to get into. Some people will look at a horse and say, well, this horse is only $1,000. This other one's $1,500. I'm going to take the $1,000, or the $3,500 versus the $4,000 stud fee. While you might be saving $500, which is savings, so many costs associated with breeding your horse, especially if it's AI. If it's AI and it's not live covered. If your mare is not actually bred, they're on site by the stallion. There's a lot of costs associated with it. Both with the prep, getting the mare ready, putting the mare under lights, getting her uterus cleaned up by the vet, getting her on the right time on her cycle, getting her inseminated.
Shipping the semen, like getting the semen ordered.
The cost of shipping it and
Unless
getting
they do it on
delivered.
site, but, yeah.
Plus all the vet fees. Usually the mare has to stay there for a week or two at least to get her the right time in her cycle and get her bred, and any kind of medication after that. So once the mare is bred, a lot of people put their horse on Regimate to help keep the mare in full and to keep the baby healthy and get that first part of the pregnancy going. If you start adding it up, there's quite a bit of money that's going to be spent regardless. And if there's a $500 or $1,000 swing between the stallion you really, really want and the one that you were okay with doing, we are more likely to probably just go ahead and take the stallion we really want, because when you're spending anywhere from $5 to $10 grand to get the horse on the ground, extra $500 really isn't that big a deal if the other stallion's really, really what you want. We're going to do a price breakdown with our journey of breeding some of our mares, so you guys will kind of get a better idea for what exactly that costs. When it comes to price, don't look just at the price of what it's going to cost, because there's also rebreed, shipping fees, and shoot fees, and all kinds of stuff that can really kind of nickel and dime you. And at the end of the day, $500,000 isn't that big a deal.
And if you breed your horse, the vet will call it up, they'll order it, and if she doesn't take, then they just do it the same next month. So it's not guaranteed you know, the first time you inseminate your mare, she'll take.
Yep, a lot of vet bills that might end up having to repay the next month just to do over again. While we're talking about this, we're going to get into contracts, and every contract's a little bit different. So we're going to pull up a screen here and kind of show you guys kind of what we do when we start looking at stallions, and kind of look at some of the contract information, some of the rebreed information, lineage, and stuff like that. So we'll pull that up real quick so we can go over that. So here I'm at the NRHA Stallion Directory. This is a good spot to start for us. Like I said, whatever discipline you're looking to get into, they're going to have something similar, but we deal mostly with the reiners and the ranch riders. So I'm going through here, and you notice a lot of these have some color. They got a lot of shape. They're really presented nice. Obviously, they're going to have the best foot forward. We can go through and read some of these. Vintage Smoke, which is who we bred Katie's horse to, Sadie.
Yeah.
Yep, so that's pretty exciting. She's due full soon. Colonel Shining Gun. Who else we got here? Electric Code, which they actually just sold him at the last futurity sale, which is pretty cool. We got to see him go through. Done it for whiskey. Yep. Gonna Stop. I think that's the horse that Cole Price won the Run for a Million on. So as you look through here, we'll go back up to Vintage Smoke. We'll click on it. And then it has just the basic information. It has the 2024 breeding fee, who it's owned by, and where the stallion station's at. A lot of these stallions are standing at a stallion station, and basically all they do is take good care of the horse, exercise them, feed them, bring them in, collect the semen, and freeze it or cool it or ship it or whatever they need to do. So it's kind of almost contracted out. And also down here is a little bit of the lineage. But where the real information's at, if you go to visit website, click that up. This is at Foals RS.
This is the stallion station
This is the stallion station that holds him. Yep.
Yeah.
So Triple Crown winner, Vintage Smoke, which is pretty cool. So as you can go down the website, you can see the name, who it's owned by, where they're standing. 6-panel negative, 2024 breeding fee, $36.50.
Interesting, because on the other website
It said $3,000. Yeah, so I'm not sure what the difference is there. They'll have to.
I would go by the Stallion website over anything.
So then you have shoot fee plus first shipment included, paid in full, single transaction, U.S. and Canada only. ICSI breeding fee, additional embryos. So you can see it gets pretty pricey. Frozen semen available, Mexico, South America. So then here you see this button, download breeding contract. So if we go through here, it says download breeding contract. We'll just click on that just to kind of see. And here is the contract. All the information's in it. Obviously, this is something you print off and fill out and email back to them. But it's good information to look over. No matter what stallion you're picking, just go through and read some of that stuff off. There's also the pedigree here. And it's another picture of him looking nice. Picture lineage, and then some of his performance record, right? So you look down, 2018 futurity champion, Derby champion, NRBC co-champion, earner of $600,000. So, and all these other wins underneath, which are pretty cool. And that's all good things you want. But him being a junior sire doesn't have a lot of babies on the ground yet. They could end up being world beaters, or they could not turn out anything. It's, you really don't know.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the benefit of getting them early. You get them a little bit cheaper and kind of get the first run at it.
The contracts are all like public information. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
It's not like you have to decide on a stallion to be able to see all this. Is all public information. Besides just the reining, we'll have stallion stations just like this.
Yep.
And every contract's a little different. Like some of them will guarantee some stuff. Some people will cover the first shipment of semen. Some people don't.
The last part about stud fees to think about is the nominations, the enrollment programs they're already in. I know with the NRHA, obviously, they can be nominated for the futurity, for the North American Reining Stakes, for the NRHA Derby, the NRBC, the Invitational. All these different programs that the stallion owner at the beginning of the year has to pay out of their pocket for them babies to be automatically eligible for those events.
Yeah.
Sometimes the only way for the babies to be shown in those events is through nominations, so that's a pretty big decision to make. And a lot of the top stallions are always nominated, but you get kind of middle to lower tier ones. A lot of them stallion owners can't afford to pay $10,000 to $40,000 for a nomination for their stallion. So something to think about. When you get the baby on the ground, how many things will it be eligible for that didn't come out of your pocket? Or even if you do have to pay, how many can they even show in? Some of these programs can't even compete in the class unless they were born nominated from the stallion. That's a big one to think about, and could be a lot of added value down the road. I know they have futurities for the cutting horses and for the barreling horses and pleasure horses, about every discipline.
There's some stallions that have passed away, but they've been collected. You can still breed to them, but they will be quite a bit higher. And frozen, obviously, that could be a reason why it's frozen or more expensive, because there's just less of them.
All right, number 6 is color. And this is something that sometimes can be a hot topic because they say color doesn't matter. It's about what's the mind of the horse, which is true. Color really doesn't matter from a ability perspective. Yeah. But when it comes to, the realization of horses are a business for us, whether we lose money on them or not, even if you just have a horse in the backyard and you're just a hobbyist, still a business aspect to it. If you have one that's guaranteed to throw you color, it can definitely pay dividends. It's crazy sometimes the same exact bred horse, whether it being a Palomino with some white on his face versus a bay or a sorrel, can bring a lot more money just based on color. Some people they look the eye appeal, the flashiness, when the horse walks into the show pen, it can be a big deal. Don't disregard color. If you don't like sorrels, and your mare's a sorrel, probably don't breed to a sorrel stallion or a bay. Find something with a little bit of color. Now, if color doesn't matter for you, which it really shouldn't, but there is a business decision to be made there.
It's like a small factor to consider. If you're between two stallions you can't pick, and one's a sorrel and one's a flashy color, I feel like go with the color.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Now, if the sorrel's way better, obviously go for that.
If you have the choice and everything else being the same, pick the one that's a little bit fancier color.
I also like to say bays are the best, I think.
People do sleep on bays and sorrels, but we'll put a graphic on the screen from AQHA registered horses by color. So it has the percentages of each color. And as you can see, sorrel was the highest with 25%, bay was 17.96, and then the smallest were Perlino, Cremola, and Grulo were the smallest percentage. Black's pretty low percentage as well, Blue Roan. Just kind of interesting there if you guys look at that.
Regarding color, and stud fee would be double registered. Paint horses.
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's a lot of horses that can be double registered. I would pay more for a stud fee if it's double registered, maybe. Quarter horse and paint horse.
Yeah. It's a lot more opportunity for more money, really, what it comes down to. All right, number 7, we're going to talk about the papers and the lineage of the horse. A lot of people, as you go through your horse journey, a lot of people will say, oh, you can't ride the papers, which is true. You don't ride the papers, you ride the horse. Every horse is different. Some of the best horses ever are grade horses, right? So they're not registered.
Or their parents, they are papered, but their parents never did anything.
Yeah. But on the other hand, from the business perspective, for us, it's pretty important that the horses have good bloodlines. And if you look back, sometimes the bloodlines will tell you different things. For instance, in the old school bloodlines, you talk about Hancock bred horses. Sometimes people say they're really rank, known to blow up, kind of cold back, but then other people say they're the best horses ever. Not saying one thing's true, one's not. Just something to think about. Same way with the gunner bred horses. A lot of them horses are deaf. Sometimes they do crib and a little bit. Not necessarily a deal breaker. Pretty big factors to think about when it comes to looking down the paper and the lineage and seeing what's back there.
It increases the chances of having those things or those tendencies depending on their papers.
Yep. And it comes to selling babies and selling foals. I mean, a lot of it comes down to color and conformation a little bit. But when they're weanlings or yearlings, it's based on potential and based on what the papers look like.
And this is for show horses. Obviously, if you just want your heart horse to have a kid,
It's different, yeah.
It wouldn't be as important on bloodlines, maybe. For us, we're talking more about what we look for for a stallion.
Yep. Another big thing to think about when it comes to bloodline and lineage is how closely related they are. I know in the reining industry, there's a ton of Spook's Got a Whiz and Gunner bred horses. So you got to be careful to make sure you're not breeding half siblings or child to the parent, basically. All right, so a baby to its mom or dad. You don't want to breed too close, right? Because then you get into the line breeding and the inbreeding, which some of that is done for the halter horses and stuff, but a lot of risk and not ideal for performance horses, yeah. Whether that's health issues or mind issues or whatever else, make sure they're not breeding too close.
Ideally, not related at all.
Not related at all. Yeah, it'd be ideal. But if you're talking, four generations back, not a problem.
It's hard because there's so many horses that great horses that so many real horses are out of.
Too. Yep. Yeah. The last thing that comes to papers is what discipline you're getting into. A lot of these horses can all cross over. A lot of the reining horses make good ranch riders and cow horses, and barreling horses, all the same. You just want to kind of stay, close to what you're looking for. I mean, if you're looking for a running horse, you're looking for a barreling horse, probably wouldn't breed to a pleasure horse, personally. Just because, that's pretty low odds you're going to get something that wants to run and gun and can turn. If you're looking for a cutting horse, they're usually a little bit smaller and athletic, probably not going to breed to a big 100 jumper or something like that. Again, not telling you what to do. That's just kind of our preference and what we would do, but definitely something to think about is how much crossover is there? I mean, if horse is an athlete, but you want to be careful making big jumps between discipline.
Their capabilities are just kind of bred into them, naturally what they're doing. So you don't want to breed in something so you're fighting them, and trying to make them be something they're not.
All right, and the last thing, do your best to try to do your own research and get your eyes on the horse in person. Whether that's at a show, if you have to, go online and watch runs and watch the competition video of the horse. Do you like how the horse moves? Do you like how the horse carries its head? Do you like how it places its feet? meet? You know, how does the rider have to do quite a bit, or does the rider look like he's not doing a whole lot and the horse is getting along pretty good? Does it look natural for the horse to do? You know, sometimes if it doesn't pass the eye test, you know, maybe that's not the horse for you.
I feel like just call people, ask. They're going to be honest, because if you don't like their stallion, then it's probably not a good match anyways. I feel like they want horses that will be a good match for their horse. They're going to be as honest as they can be, because they want their horse to do well, you know, so them lying isn't going to help them at all.
Yeah, the owners usually are advocates for the industry. I mean, they want their horse to do well, so they want to breed to nice mares, and they're not going to try to force feed you anything that's not a good fit. So at the end of the day, these are all just kind of guidelines we use. None of them really make or break our decision, what we're going to do, but we do like to look at every single possible decision and run through every scenario, put our best foot forward, because at the end of the day, this horse gets on the ground and gets into the world. We all have a responsibility to try to put out the best horses we can, and do right by the horses and by the industry as a whole. Take your time, do what you can afford, and have fun with it. You know, once you make the decision and the mare's in full, it's like the longest waiting game ever. You know, it's a long time, but it's so exciting when the horse gets on the ground and it's healthy, because man, possibilities are endless. So it's a pretty exciting time. If you ever considered getting into breeding and you haven't yet, it's a pretty fun game. If you guys have any other questions or anything else you want us to kind of talk about, let us know in the comments. We got a couple other videos coming up for you guys. I think our next one is about her horse Sadie. If you guys follow us along on TikTok or any of our short form stuff on YouTube Shorts, her horse Sadie is at a chromed out Mercedes, bred to Vintage Smoke, which is a stallion we showed you earlier. That's about it, guys. Thanks for watching. Like I said, this is our first video of this type, so we're pretty excited to do a lot more sit down videos like this. Any more questions, let us know. Make sure you guys check us out on all our social media and make sure you subscribe.
Thanks for watching. Bye.